Hi, BookTube. It's Gina, and I wanted to do a little Friday Reads update and spotlight one of my favorite UK small publishers, Slightly Foxed. I don't know if any of you have heard of Slightly Foxed, but it's a really wonderful UK publisher. They do small press, kind of unknown, forgotten books. I'm looking at their website right now. They've also, in addition to being a publisher, do a quarterly periodical with things like book reviews and essays, more essays. Their description of their periodical is the independent-minded literary magazine that combines good looks, good writing, and a personal approach. Slightly Foxed introduces its readers to books that are no longer new and fashionable, but have lasting appeal. Good-humored, unpretentious, and a bit eccentric. It's more like a well-read friend than a literary review. And that speaks to me because I think sometimes that describes me too. Good-humored, unpretentious, and a bit eccentric. So the three things I wanted to talk about today with Slightly Foxed is their periodical, their books, and their podcasts. They got a wonderful podcast that they do. And the first thing I want to show you is a book of theirs that I've had for a while that I bought maybe a year or so ago. This is pretty typical of the types of books that they publish. And this is 84 Charing Crossroad by Helene Hamp. And it's a small size. You can see sort of when I hold my hand up, it's hard to see on the camera, but it's little. It's a little sort of pocket-sized book in this really pretty green-ish aqua color and a little half slip case on the front. And I just absolutely love this. This is 84 Charing Cross Road, which was turned into a wonderful movie starring Anne Bancroft as Helene Hamp. And so every time I look at this, I still picture her face when I'm thinking of Helene. But what I like so much about this Slightly Foxed edition is that one of my favorite lines in this book and in the movie is by Helene writing to Frank Dole at 84 Charing Cross Road, which is a bookstore where she started buying books that she couldn't find in the U.S. and back in the 40s. And so they were corresponding. She was buying books. They were writing back and forth to each other. And I think this one is really appropriate for these Slightly Foxed editions because the quote is, "I require a book of love poems with spring coming on. No Keats or Shelley. Send me poets who can make love without slobbering. Wyatt or Johnson or somebody. Use your own judgment. Just a nice book, preferably small enough to stick in a slacks pocket and take to Central Park," which this really is. This is a hardcover, so it'd be a little hard to stick in a pants pocket, but this is a pretty standard size of books that they do. And so I just thought that was a very sweet sentence in relation to the Slightly Foxed editions. I don't know why I always do this. I'm bouncing around here. So that is my first Slightly Foxed purchase. I do also subscribe to their periodical, and I just have a couple of samples here. So these are quarterly. This is the autumn 2020 edition, and it's just a magazine, a small magazine. This issue has Selena Hastings meets a Mitford. David Fleming goes down with the Titanic. All kinds of fun essays on bookish things. That is their periodical. And then I just got a little pile of books. I ordered a couple of these slightly foxed paperbacks. They're these little small editions, more books that can fit in a slacks pocket. These are little enough to fit easily transportable, which is not that relevant these days, but I just think they're super nice. This little stack that I got, there are 4 memoirs, and they're authors that I'm not that familiar with, so I was sort of looking forward to just reading something that's a little bit different. The first one is A Cab at the Door, and this is a memoir by V.S. Pritchett. I've also got Hand Grenade Practice in Peking by Frances Wood. I don't know anything about these authors. And A Late Beginner by Priscilla Napier. So I'm looking forward to reading these memoirs. Now, I'll be honest, these probably are a little pile of books that are going to get stuck on my shelf, and I will come back to them because I've got a lot of reading for March that I want to do, and I have no problems just buying books that I want to keep and read eventually. I have no qualms about stuff on my shelves. I don't have any desire to have a 0 TBR. Pile them up. I love to have lots of stuff on my bookshelves. I was joking with somebody on BookTube a year ago. They were talking about a 0 TBR, and I commented, I just don't understand the whole TBR question. I'd love to have piles of books in my house that I have not read. And a year later, subsequently, that same person pulled up that old comment and said, sounds like that was a good plan. I hope you had plenty of stuff to read over the pandemic. I was like, yes, I did. So that I thought was kind of funny. So I'm going to pile these on my shelf and get to them eventually. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention the Slightly Foxed podcast because it is so wonderful. If you like anything English, this podcast is just the quintessential English thing to me. The host is Philippa Lamb, and she's got a wonderful English accent. She's English, and it's such a relaxing and wonderful podcast. They talk about similar things that they do in the periodical. So they usually will have a guest on the podcast, somebody talking about nature writing or a historical author, and they talk on the podcast for about half an hour, 40 minutes. It's not a super long podcast, but it's very, very nice. And if you like English things, and if you like that description that I read out earlier about a world of good reading, I think you might get a kick out of the Slightly Foxed podcast. So give them a check out. I think you'll enjoy it. My cat is starting to gnaw on my computer, so it's going to probably get knocked off. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you, BookTube. Bye.